Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn live stream. I'm Sheldon. I'm part of the team here at Utopia Experience, where we produce conferences and galas all over the country. But more than just running events, we're obsessed with studying them, figuring out what works, what flops, what makes people light up, and what makes them check out. So today I'm here to help guide this conversation. I'm here to keep an eye on your questions in the chat and make sure that we pull the best insights for you. And we're keeping this short, packed with takeaways, no fluff, just 20 to 30 minutes of insights. So let's dive in. Today's topic is innovating spectacular events, turning dreams into destiny. And leading today's conversation is Utopia's Joey Goon. He's the president here at Utopia Experience. And our guest today, I'm so excited. This is one of the most prolific authors of all time. I want to introduce you to a man who has sold over 500 million books. He's hit number one on the New York Best Times bestsellers list 59 times, co-authored the iconic Chicken Soup for the Soul, the 1 Minute Millionaire, the Ask book series. He's spoken live to over 7 million people in 80 different countries around the world. He loves to share stories and talk to inspire others to fulfill their respective destinies. Please give me a hand in welcoming the co-author of Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, Mark Victor Hansen. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. Let's rip and roll and roar forward. Roar forward.
I'll let you two get into it. I'm going to jump into the background, but it is an honor to have you here, Mark.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Mark, I have a billion questions for you. We only have 30 minutes, so I just want to turn it over to you, my friend. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so money is only made three ways in business. One is innovation, which we're going to talk about today. Two is marketing, which we're going to talk about. And three is finance. And if you do the right innovation, like today, the companies like Tesla have just innovated thing after thing after thing, and NVIDIA thing after thing after thing, and Palantir thing after thing. Well, that's what I do in the book business. And in the book business, obviously, I did all those books that he spoke to. And we did a seminar series based on 1 Minute Millionaire, and we had 4,000 people on a weekend coming. And butterfly is the universal symbol of illumination and transformation and uniqueness and beauty, I think. And we did something that even Random House, when we did it, said you couldn't do it. And we did two books in one, on the left-hand side, your left brain, right-hand side, your right brain. So that's the way I think we had to run seminars. And then just to get to the freedom, when we did this book, we had a butterfly fly off to freedom at the top by the time you're done reading it. And I think other than Think, Grow Rich, I think my little book here that I did with Bob Allen has sold more than any other, 3.6 million the first day. We melted on Amazon, but I think we've made more millionaires based on, you and I had previous talks. I mean, I talked to the world's biggest social media, Adley Kinsman, who's has a billion views a month. And she said, you made me rich because of your book, 1 Minute Millionaire. And if I wasn't doing podcasts like this, I wouldn't even know that existed, or she would exist. Right. I'm so thankful. So I think, we're talking about innovating spectacular events. My whole career is based on reading. So I'm an addicted reader. Number two is attending seminars. I'm a seminar junkie. I happen to like it. I hope the people listening are, and you guys run the best of the best. I mean, the guy that introduced me to you is the guy who created Priceline, so many companies, billionaire Jeff Hoffman, who's dear friends with both of us. So you got, first of all, the books, the seminars, and then the people you meet. And when you go to seminars like yours, you figured out how to have connectivity, which right now, America, thanks to COVID and all kinds of stuff, has been disconnected. You are reconnecting them. And I want to work with you to help build them bigger, better, stronger, hardier. So people come out beating on their chest saying, hey, wait a second, I'm going into a new, bigger, better life. And based on what our dear friend, Mr. Price just said, Crystal and I wrote the book, Ask, Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, because everyone has a destiny, and most people don't know it. Oh, no, I just go to work every day, then come home and crush beer cans on my hand and throw them toward the TV. That's not a good life.
Mark, for those people that are trying to innovate their event experiences, being that you've spoken at a number of events, you've produced conferences and seminars, and you are a seminar junkie yourself, so you've been on both sides of the aisle, being on the event planning team and also someone who is an attendee at a variety of different events all over the world. What is it sort of with the content and the title of your book in mind, Ask? What is a question that you feel more event planners and producers should be asking when trying to bring people together at experiences that can transform?
I just heard the question, by the way, on an audio while I was exercising early this morning. So in my case, because I'm writing books, and then saying how to market, what this wonderful geek said in Silicon Valley was ask a question, you write out what you're going to do for marketing, then what would Steve Jobs do? What would Elon Musk do? What would Alex Cross at Palantir do? And I thought, what a cool question. So you do the same thing, whoever's the best at events, and other than your events, I'd say, I'm a Horatio Alger Award winner, which means I came from rags to riches, been excessively philanthropic. You get a gold medal in the Supreme Court, and 10 of us win every year in my classes. Tom Selleck, and then we've helped 35,000 kids a year get scholarships, academic and trade, which I'm more now big on trade because it makes money instantly and people need to do it. But we have spectacular events. The military watches starts in, the flags float from the countries. We always have an international person, so they have their military come in with, and then the whole thing is an extravaganza. We have superstars that are also winners that all of us contribute to the kids, and we all have to have a kid that we mentor and mentee. So the more involvement you can get, the better. And we have like David Foster, the guy who he created little people you've never heard of, like Celine Dion and Whitney Houston and unknowns. And he happens to be my friend. And so I love David a great deal, and his wife, and my wife loves him too. So the point is, events are there to be made more and more spectacular. So if you talk to the head, Leslie Albanese, who I talked to yesterday because I told her we were going to do this, she said she'd love to talk to you and help you make your events even bigger and more spectacular. Because everybody that goes that comes out, what you're saying is you got to have a wow event. So, and then what I love about the way you do it is you have them come up with a camera at the end and videotape everybody. So, and you send it back in a week, and then you send it back in a month, and then in a year. So they redo it. And if you'd add to that just one other little element, and that is, what are the three things they said they got? And videotape is, have your people videotape their people, or their people videotape their people, and you get it and you collate it and send it back to them. Here's the three things I learned. Here's the three things I've learned not to do. Here's the three things I'm going to learn that'll increase me 10%, which means my company is going to be up 30% this year, which is like serious astronomical growth. Now, if you're in the software business, then it can go exponential, which is then we're dealing with 100,000 or 10,000 fold in a year. Was that too much to answer?
No, that was good. That was good. What I'm hearing, just sort of summarizing the key points there, is transformate. First off, I love the idea of asking the question, but then putting it in AI. I'm assuming that that's what you meant, is like throw it in ChatGPT or Claude or one of the AI platforms and ask it, how would the masters, the people that are masters at marketing or business scaling or whatever, how would they do this, or how would they approach that? So that's a great tidbit. The second thing that I heard was connection and community, not just delivering content, but making it really sticky so that the community feels connected to each other. And maybe even more importantly, that after the event is over, you have touch points of connection that call people back to those emotional connections that they formed at the event. Be it maybe we're recording content and we're sending that to people after the event to sort of reinforce, like, here's what you learned, remember, and also buy a ticket for next year and invite all your friends. And here's a video, right? Like, so just that energy connection. What advice would you give? What other ways have you seen that done exceptionally well at the seminars that you attend?
First of all, everything you've said is correct, and thank you for clarifying all the points. When Jack and I met, he talked to 6,000 people at the Mandala Association down in San Diego years ago. It was about 1987 or 88 we met. Then I talked, and Jack came up to me after I'd sold all this product. I created a table rush. And he said, do you know who I am? And I said, yeah, you're Dr. Jack Canfield, third year class at Harvard, sold 370,000 copies of 101 Ways to Build Success. He couldn't believe it, because I think you need to tell, as somebody coming to a seminar, who's coming to the seminar, and you need to do full due diligence on every one of them and come there with your 3 questions for that person before you get there. Well, Jack and I say 1 and 1 equals 11. In a mastermind, it creates a third new invincible, unstoppable mind. Well, I didn't really know I wanted to be Jack's partner when I went to that seminar. But back to your thing on connectivity, I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't studied Jack and impressed the crap out of him, because, you know, he was doing exceedingly well in the education market. I was doing exceedingly well in the business market. And he also totally knew my bio. I knew his bio. And while there are 6,000 people there I could have networked with, luckily we synchronized, and then we've done $2 billion worth of book business, and I created the whole licensing for us and created $1 billion worth of licensing. Never done before in the book business, because back to what I said about innovation, we need to keep innovating so the people do synchronize, they do connect, and you as the producer of this great extravaganza knows who connects with who, why, and what they expect to do. And then you stay in touch with them so they do just what you said. They won't bring 2 back, they'll bring 4 back or 10 back. And let me hit on that one little thing, because you finished your question with that. When I used to have, we just finished the book because I now own Mark Victor Hansen Library.com, where we create fiction, nonfiction biographies. But we did the biography on John Paul DeJourian while he was becoming a billionaire after being homeless twice, creating Paul Mitchell hair students, 37,000 salons, 103 countries, Patron 100 million bottles a month. I call JP as he goes by and I say, John Paul DeJourian, JP, I want you to talk about my seminar. What do you want? He said, I want you to let me bring 20 people and they're all coming to your VIP. Well, that we charge $500 extra, but that they came, and of course you don't get to pay a guy worth $1 billion to come to your seminar and talk, and everybody got pictures with him and they fell in love with him. But his 20 people mingle and would answer anything about anything and how to create a business. Because he said, if you have a seminar, we'll use your business, and you only come once, you haven't got a business. He said, I did my hair beauty stuff so well that they not only came back, but they came back, same product, the first product he created, still selling to all those same women for shiny hair 37 years later. And the same for me. I get hired by somebody like Remax or Century 21 or something. They keep hiring me forever, because if you do a good job and you're confident and competent like you are in seminar business, it starts to mushroom, and it consistently compounds if you're persistent, insistent, and consistent.
Love that. You are a master storyteller. I'm curious to get your perspective on how important it is to weave stories into your event tracks, to tell a really powerful story, not just during the event, but perhaps pre-event or post-event. Like, how do you see that as an author?
Well, first of all, life is a story. So I love the way you framed the question. And never, including me, did that. But boy, given what you just said, you ought to get a story from each one of the key ladies or gentlemen that are speaking, and make sure that story resonates. And what Chicken Soup is a book of stories, 3 pages or less, because we said this is what you read when you're in the bathroom. This is what you read before it falls asleep and you've crashed into your face. But you fall asleep happy and you'll be crying happy tears and have goosebumps, God bumps, chili bumps. And that was our whole model. And we got 7 parts that it caused instantaneous behavioral change, which is exactly what a good seminar does. And if you have, let's say you got, I don't know what the average number of speakers you have coming, but if you have 7 speakers and you get 7 stories, and their hallmark story, and I'm going to tell you, this is just one of my hallmark stories, and you got to come and hear the rest, and it's going to change your business, not a little, but it's going to profoundly project you into what we talked about before we got on here, a moonshot, or now thanks to Elon, a Mars shot, which he said he wants to be buried on Mars but not on impact.
How do you, okay, so there was an event that I met Jeff Hoffman at.
Yep.
And it was the Front Row Summit in Cleveland, Ohio, and they had Jeff speak, and John Berghoff, the facilitator at that event, said, hey, who in the room right now, by the way, there was a beautiful story that was shared about this little girl. She was 8, 9 years old, battling a terminal illness. They shared that story. Everyone's faces are leaking in the room. And they said, we want to raise enough money to send her on a beautiful wish. Her wish is to go backstage to this particular concert. We want to raise enough money right now to do that. And at the $10,000 level, if you raise your paddle, not only will you be making her wish come true, but you're going to get to spend 90 minutes of time with Mr. Priceline coaching you on your business. So I love the idea of getting creative with trying to tie a charity or a philanthropic cause into a seminar or a conference or a mastermind. What other ways do you think, because you're a businessman, you're super successful, how can conference organizers, people that are putting on these summits, how can they do things like, what else might there be in regard to raising money at events to increase their top line revenue and to maybe package more ROI into sponsorships?
I love the question. It's called cause-related charity, and I'm one of the maestros of it. And I used it to sell more books, but we also used it to raise money. The Red Cross came to me and Liddy Dole said, hey, look, we're out of blood in America. And if we don't have blood, the person's called dead. There's no pseudo fake blood. It doesn't exist. So if you or your kids or your spouse gets in a car accident or has an hurt somehow, needs blood, if it's not there in hospital in advance, you're called DEAD. That's not cool. So she said, what can you do? And I said, well, let's go to medical doctors. They said no. So I said, look, I train 4 markets, but one of them is chiropractic, and there's 77,000 doctors seeing 25 million patients a month. They're all my friends. We'll give away a little 3-story book if they come and give blood, and we'll have all the chiropractors reactivate all their old patients. Same thing you can do in the seminar business. And by the way, you could do Red Cross. They'd love to have a blood drive at every one of these things, and it's pretty much painless and helpful. And you live longer if you give blood, because your body's got to generate blood that's more mobile and more white cell, all that stuff I can talk about. The point is that we had them call 800 Give Life, have a blood mobile. We raised enough blood in 1 month to have blood cryogenically frozen for 1.5 years in advance. That was cool. The chiropractors all got new patients and old patients, because everybody, bottom line, we're set up to want to give, but we need to have trust in whoever is setting it up. And in your case, it's you, the seminar. So I took 2 negatives. Chiropractors weren't getting any money out of insurance anymore and had to go to cash practices, and I did wholesale tapes and that. And then the Red Cross needed the blood. I put them together, and I put me in the middle, saying that we'll give the book. And obviously I got a big trophy and all that good stuff, but that's not what's important. What's important is a lot of people didn't die because of one idea. You never have a money shortage. You only have an idea shortage. It's like, I could repeat that 10 times, and it really has got to sink in, because some of the people listening say, well, I do seminars and we run out of money before the seminar's over because we want to do all this stuff. No, just come up with better ideas, better sponsorship ideas, better philanthropic ideas like the one I mentioned. I can go on and on if you want.
Is there a trick or a tactic around keeping stories and messaging fresh and new? I mean, you've spoken on so many different stages, delivered a lot of speeches. How do you think events, like if you don't innovate, we talked about innovation being the core theme of this conversation. If you don't innovate, your event becomes stale, and there's a million other seminar companies or conference companies out there that are doing business, personal, professional development conference, whatever your thing is, for those of you out there listening. How would you encourage people to continue to innovate their messaging and their talks so that they don't become yesterday's news?
Okay, so what we teach I'm going to example my book, ask yourself, ask others, ask God. But you can ask God, how do I innovate and go to the next level? How do I go to the next realm? How do I elevate this seminar so it's so spectacular an event that it's so sticky that not only does everybody want to come, but they want to bring their friends, neighbors, and relatives. And that was really the line of Walt Disney, when Disney was really a great, great company. And he says, what you got to do is, as good as your idea is, you got to keep plussing your idea. And he says, you got to make your business so good that when people come, they want to come again and again and again, and they bring their friends, neighbors, and relatives. And that's really what Disney did, starting before you were born in the 50s, and it opened it up with a guy I wrote a book with, when he was 96 years old. I wrote a book with Art Linkletter. Some of the older people will remember him, How to Make the Rest of Your Life the Best of Your Life. Yeah. And we just, we had a ball. So the point is, Disney is no different than your thing, no different than a beauty shop, no different than the seminars that I ran. We did a $100 million seminar company on that. We had 4,000 people come, because you got to give them what they want when they want it. And today with AI, we can go specifically to the people in a certain market and know their gender, know what they want, know what they're looking for, and then facilitate having that. And you need to ask yourself, what do the people coming to this seminar at this time need? And we can do that with all the stuff we talked about at the beginning, whether it's Grok or whether it's ChatGPT or any other because there's new stuff coming out every day. So I can't name all of it. It would take too long. But the point is, you are on the pulse of what's happening here. And that's the same thing we are in the book business at Mark Victor Hansen Library. We're doing books nobody ever thought could be done. And we're doing one on, I can go through 10, but we got one called Healed. And I told the lady at the church, she's 88 years old when we started writing her book. She's now 90. And she said, what's going to happen when I come out with the book? I said, your church is going to have to blow out the front and back doors. And that's what's happened at her little chapel. We were there last Sunday. And she said, well, now what's going to happen? I said, look, the guy outside just bought 30 of your books and you signed it, but then he said, you're the author and you're famous. Why don't you sign it too? And I go, I've never seen a publisher sign a book. You don't get Random House signing books usually, or so it's very exciting. I mean, I love the book business, but I love the seminar business. I want everyone to find the seminar that touches their heart, their soul, their mind. And when they do, they're going to want to go forever. Like I'm a founder of the National Speaker Association. I'm obviously big in lots of different things I can talk to. I'm on the board of a lot of things like Child Health, where we help 13 million kids get out of abuse, neglect, and trafficking. So, if you ask the people coming to talk what their charity is, and if you agreed with their charity,
that's a great idea.
And say, hey, look, if you do anything for Child Help, you're doing it for me, right? But the point is, you're really doing it for the 13 million kids that we've helped and the more that we're going to help. Just because look, I wrote Chicken Soup for the Adopted Soul, and I was a lead. Jack and I championed different books, but I championed that one. And I said, every kid in the world should be a loved kid. And unless you're an idiot, you can't object to that.
I love that, Mark. That was such a great point. Like, for those of you out there that are trying to get facilitators or keynote speakers, maybe the question that you ask is, what is something that really matters to you? What is a cause that we can help to promote here at our live event experience? And then, like, wow, I doubt that anybody else has ever asked them that question. So, like, yeah, I mean, just be different and be the one who's, willing to ask them that question and then help elevate whatever cause it is that they care about. Or maybe it's a book that they're writing or a book that they have written. Speaking of books, how the hell do you sell 500 million copies of books? And I think that people can learn a tremendous deal and take this and take your knowledge and insights here to market and to promote their own product or offering or business. How does one do that?
Perfect. You find by the way, same thing Jeff says, I'm just a little articulately different, but you find a problem, fix it, scale it, and make a vast profit. So I had 397 employees back in Costa Mesa, California, and it was a giant, and we were doing giant amounts of business. So all the women were single by and large. Their husbands had left, divorced them, whatever the problem was, but they all went to the Boys and Girls Club. So they said, look, they're out of money. Would you come? And they just want me to write a check. And I said, no, tell me what it is, who your biggest sponsor is. Well, their biggest sponsor is Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola doesn't give any money. That's what most people don't get. Coca-Cola gets guys like me to figure out how to create the money. That's what big business does. So I said to them, let's do a quick test, see who reads books, because I'm only in the book business. I'm not interested in helping you just sell sugar drinks. So we found out that Coca-Cola drinkers read no books. Diet Coke drinkers read all the books. So we were on 50 million Diet Coke cases a month for 6 months. We had my book, Chicken Soup for the Romantic Soul, next, because that was the right book for that. And next to it was Nora Roberts' book called Hidden Riches. And she's one of the great all-time. She writes, I got to brag about her, but she writes in longhand. She can't even type or compute. She writes 52,000 words a minute. So she, like me, is prolific, and she finishes a book every 2 weeks. Publishers only will take one book every 2 years because they're antediluvian. How's that? There's a big word. They're before the flood, so to speak. Anyhow, and I shouldn't beat on them. It's been great to my industry that made me a wealthy man, so I love them. Anyhow, we did it. 50,000 Diet Coke cases a month. All that real estate said, get these 2 books for this. And the money went and we got enough money raised to get 15,000 kids into Boys and Girls Clubs that year.
Wow.
And by the way, every major company needs somebody to come up with an idea. No offense intended, but the people in an industry don't solve the problems of the industry. The best example is Elon Musk. The people in the car business used to have electric cars and they killed it. They couldn't see how to make it. Now he's out selling everybody in the whole world cars, even though he's got a temporary hiccup as we make this. But that's temporary. Like I said, he is out thinking them, because I teach, if you're going to outperform the world, you got to outthink them, out talk them, out strategize them, and out story them.
So powerful.
I love talking to you.
I know we're at the top of we're already at the 3 o'clock. There's so many more questions that I have. Anything?
Well, keep going. Somebody else will listen.
anything that we haven't talked about yet as it relates to, let me ask you this, because I think this would be super valuable. By the way, your dog is very excited about this conversation, which I applaud. I love dogs, by the way.
That's our grand dog, by the way, a beautiful black lab who our daughter needed to do something today, and we're grand dog sitting. How's that? Isn't that nice?
That's awesome. That's awesome. How does someone go about securing a brand partnership with a company as big as Coca-Cola?
Well, I wasn't that big then. What happened is I promised to raise the money. The minute you're going to make them bigger and better and not detract, but back to this thing of Walt Disney, you're plussing. I was plussing them in Atlanta, Georgia, and then they said once we sold so many and got so many kids in, they paid our way, Nora and I, to have a day with them in New York. So all the executives got to fly to New York, and we got to go to theater and plays and shopping, and they were just head over heels because they made a hell of a lot of money by selling more of that and looking good to the public. Because most companies want to look good, and they will gladly, they want to do good by doing well, and all that takes is just one idea. There's not one person listening, that can't have an idea that's bigger, better, stronger than that company can have, because they have a dearth of, and the people inside the company are afraid to go to management and ask. Look, if you don't go, it's a no anyhow, like Jack and I teach. And if you, Dr. Canfield, and if you do go, you make everybody better off and no one worse off. I mean, 15,000 kids didn't know me, will never know me, that got in. And like yesterday, I said, I was talking to our big association of Horatio Algier, and they need something. And I said, look, JP is going to give a book to every one of the 500 of us living Horatio members over the last 70 years. Most of us still alive, but secondly, is that we want to give to all 35,000 students. She said, nobody's ever done that except you when you came out with Chicken Soup for the College Soul. I said, they need it, and we'll just do it electronically. It'll go like that. Doesn't cost us anything, but it makes everybody better off, because if you know a great story, it gives you a new model in your brain, a new result in your future. And back to your question, is I write more because I have more stories in my brain than anyone. In the last couple of days, since we befriended each other a couple of weeks ago, I've sent you all kinds of stuff that you didn't know existed because you asked me some serious questions. So I said, I'm going to give you some serious input fast by text. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you.
No, I appreciate diversity of perspective. Absolutely. And kinetic connections, as Jeff Hoffman likes to, he talks about kinetic connections. Like, this conversation would never be happening if it wasn't for
a connection.
A connection. And the power of those connections is just the power of connections and loving on people. I think it's not, Dr. Benjamin Hardy says it's not how, it's who, or who.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
How.
He's got a good book, and he did it with a guy I paid $15,000 to take his seminar, Dan Sullivan. But I really think, because Jeff is such a mathematician, he'd love this. What we're just talking about is C squared, because connection squares you. It doesn't double you, it's square. It takes you to where you want to go. So if you haven't gone to one of my dear friend Joey's seminars, you need to. And Joey, where do they go for you?
utopiaexperience.com. We help you wherever you are, put on your production, put on your conference, your summit, your mastermind. We talked about doing our own, Mark. And it's becoming much more interesting to me to consider putting on our own large conference, our own personal professional development, business scaling conference. So that might be in the works. Would you consider coming out and speaking if we did that?
100%.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'll tell you, I'll bring some people, and I'll bring some AI technology that you haven't heard of that's going to change the world. Because look, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the most exciting time. And one of the books, we're doing books with 4 guys that I'm partners with, that a guy came out of the military. He said, look, we're going into the golden age, and he's been dying until I got him one of my other products called newcom.com. And he says, look, we got to go into America's golden age. We got to have a hat for that. And these go on sale next week. And we got them like that. And then if that's not colorful enough, we've got them in gold like that. How's that for extremely? You walk through the airport, everybody sees you with this hat on. I promise you, we've experienced it. And we think we'll sell tens of millions of these little things. And we got a bunch of other stuff. Why? Because we need people to understand the more enterprising you are, the freer you are. And everybody needs to be enterprising now, even people in my age group. Like I'm 77 going on 127 options for renewal, but I feel 28 inside because the point is I take good care of myself. I exercise an hour plus this morning. I eat all the right stuff. I've got the best wife in the world, and bragging. My grandkids are even spectacular. And you can see we even take care of grand dogs at this big house.
Where can people find you? And two-part question. One, where can people find you? And two, what's a project you're working on right now that you're really excited about so that people watching this can go and support you?
Okay, so first of all, I want all of you to consider writing a book. Whether you can afford us or not is a different question. But everyone, you make the decision, then you find the provision. Your subconscious will find all the provision you want, because I said it's one idea away. So we would like everyone to go to markvictorhansenlibrary.com. I'm Library 3.0, and last year we had 86 number one books on Amazon, that's where 87% of books are sold. So it's sort of a mind blower to me that as a little publisher, I'm becoming the big guy in the block, and other guys are trying to buy me. And I go, I'm not for sale. I really love my business. I love what I do. That's the basic one. Then number two is that if you can't sleep or if you're upset or anything, go to newcom.com. It's an app. You put it on your phone, but you can try rescue, and in 20 minutes you get 2 hours of sleep during the middle of the day. And we got people that are sleep deprived, like the guy who came up with that idea, America Golden Eagle. He's a Marine officer who's been my friend for 50 years in Vietnam. And what happened is that he couldn't sleep. He tried Newcom and went to sleep, because there's only 4 vibrations of mind, and it takes you right to theta, and you can't get out of the vibration. It doesn't matter. 8.4 billion people on the planet. There's only 4 vibrations. Everyone's got them. You get that on your phone. You listen to it. I use it every day in the afternoon, so I get 2 days out every one. And because I got so much I want to do, I really believe everyone's got great stuff they want to do, back to the innovative, back to spectacular, back to events of their own that they want to have all the fireworks go off in life. And I don't care how old you are. And so I see Mr. Price coming back, Sheldon, and the brilliant one is going to say, hey, you guys, cut.
You called it. I don't want to put a stopper to the conversation because it is so good, but we do try to keep them right here at 30 minutes. Mark, I've loved this conversation. Like you mentioned here, growing up, I did have all of your books in our bathrooms. Have read so many of the stories. And hearing you talk today about how to continually innovate, to think of your audiences, that connectivity, always be changing and thinking. I think that's something that we can all move forward with. So yeah, if you want to connect with us or with Mark and you're watching this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, I'm going to put all of those links in the comments below. So like Mark mentioned, his website and everything, you'll be able to find those in the comments. And if you have any extra questions for them, leave those in the comments as well, and we'll pass them along to Mark and Joey.
Mark, really an honor. Really an honor.
My pleasure. I enjoyed every second.
Childhood hero. I got to interview you on my LinkedIn page. Hey, I'll follow up with you via text, and we'll continue chatting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Until then,